Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you were born in a completely different time and place? Forget modern comforts, forget the internet, forget everything you know. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the 17th century Caribbean. What would your life really be like? Let's set the scene. The 17th century, from 1601 to 1700, was a tumultuous and transformative era for the Caribbean. This wasn't the peaceful, resort-filled paradise we think of today. Instead, it was a volatile frontier, a melting pot of cultures, and a battleground for European empires like Spain, England, France, and the Netherlands. So, the first question is, who would you be? Your entire life experience would depend on your background. Let's imagine you were born into a European family. Perhaps your father is a colonial official, a merchant, or a plantation owner. You'd likely live in a burgeoning port town, like Port Royal in Jamaica, or Bridgetown in Barbados. Your house might be made of timber and stone, designed to catch the sea breeze, but it would still be hot. Swarms of mosquitoes would be a constant nuisance, and diseases like malaria, yellow fever, and dysentery would be a constant threat. For many Europeans, the Caribbean was a graveyard, and survival itself was a major achievement. Your diet would be a mix of the familiar and the new. You might have imported salted fish and beef, but you'd also eat local foods like cassava, sweet potatoes, yams, and tropical fruits. Fresh water would be a precious commodity. Education, if you received any, would be basic and likely focused on religion and commerce. Your world would be small, centered on your town, your church, and your family's business interests. You'd hear constant rumors of war with other European powers and tales of pirates roaming the seas. The threat of a raid was very real. Now let's consider a starkly different reality. Imagine you were born into an indigenous community, like the Kalinago, also known as the Caribs. Your people have lived on these islands for centuries. Your life would be deeply connected to nature. You'd live in a village of thatched roof huts, and your community would be your entire world. You would learn to fish in the turquoise waters, navigate the dense forests, and cultivate crops like cassava and maize. Your spiritual life would be rich, centered on the spirits of ancestors and the natural world. However, your way of life would be under immense threat. The arrival of Europeans brought diseases that your people had no immunity to, leading to devastating population declines. You would also face violent conflicts as Europeans sought to claim your land and resources. Your community would have to choose between fighting back, fleeing to more remote islands, or trying to coexist with the powerful newcomers. Your future would be uncertain, hanging in the balance as the world you knew was rapidly and violently changing. And then there is the most harrowing experience of all, being born into slavery. If you were born to an enslaved African mother on a sugar plantation, your life would be defined by brutal labor and the complete loss of freedom. From a very young age, you would be forced to work in the sugarcane fields under the scorching sun. The work was grueling and dangerous, from planting and cutting the heavy cane to operating the massive grinding mills. Your housing would be a simple shack, your food rations meager, and medical care almost non-existent. Your legal status would be that of property. You could be bought and sold, and families were constantly torn apart. Yet, within this horrific system, enslaved people forged powerful communities. They held onto cultural traditions from Africa through music, storytelling, and religion, often blending them with elements of their new environment. Resistance took many forms, from slowing down work and breaking tools to escaping into the mountains, to form maroon communities, free societies of formerly enslaved people. Your life would be a constant struggle for survival and dignity, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable cruelty. So, who else populated this world? Let's not forget the pirates and privateers. If you were a young, disenfranchised European sailor, tired of the harsh discipline of the Navy or merchant ships, piracy might seem like a tempting alternative. Life as a pirate offered a chance at freedom and wealth. Pirate ships often operated more democratically than other vessels, with crews voting for their captain and sharing the spoils. However, this life was far from glamorous. It was a life of constant danger, not just from naval patrols, but from storms, disease, and betrayal from your own crewmates. A successful raid could make you rich overnight, but that wealth was often spent just as quickly on drink and revelry in pirate havens. Most pirates had short, violent careers. You were more likely to end up swinging from a gibbet in a major port, a warning to others, than retiring with a chest full of gold. Finally, what if you were an indentured servant? Many poor Europeans, seeking a new life, signed contracts to work for a set number of years, usually 4 to 7, in exchange for passage to the Caribbean. During your indenture, your life would be one of hard labor, not unlike that of an enslaved person, although you had the hope of freedom at the end of your term. You would work on plantations, or as a domestic servant, facing harsh conditions and strict masters. If you survived your term, you would be granted freedom dues, which might include a small plot of land, tools, and some corn. For a few, this was a stepping stone to becoming a small landowner. For many others, disease or the sheer difficulty of life meant they never saw that freedom. As you can see, life in the 17th century Caribbean was a complex tapestry of ambition, survival, oppression, and resistance. It was a place of incredible wealth for a few, built on the suffering of many. It was a world where cultures collided, creating new societies and new identities that continue to shape the region today. It was a world of stark contrasts, stunning natural beauty alongside brutal human cruelty, the promise of immense riches alongside the constant threat of an early death. So, when you picture the Caribbean, remember this turbulent past. The pirates and the plantations, the colonizers and the colonized, the enslaved and the free. It's a history that is raw, often difficult, but essential to understanding the world we live in today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into history. Let me know in the comments which historical period you'd like to visit next. See you in the next video.